why is there so much racism in our Ummah, right? Why is there so much, and why is it ignored? And very few people talk about it. Like, and I think we're kind of guilty of it too. And I think it's because we're just used to it. We're used to what goes on in the Ummah, being African Americans, being at the bottom of the racial hierarchy in the Ummah, as we went over, right? And so we get used to things and we don't talk about stuff. But we kind of had a reminder when we did a short little video on racism, talking about the most likely color of Adam alayhi salam. And then all of a sudden, this just Muslim hate came out. People just were so upset that Adam may have been looked more like me than he looked like someone from Persia.
Listen.
But I have an opinion on this.
They pissed that Adam doesn't look like Brad Pitt. They're like, no.
There is
not my prophet.
So I have an opinion on this.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know what y'all think. I think a lot of the racism stems from a lot of people or groups of people putting their tradition and customs over actually practicing Islam. And a lot of their traditions are rooted in racism. With all those caste systems and all the stuff like that, I think that's a thing that is basically taught to the next generation. And once again, putting that precedence of your tradition and customs over religion, you're going to have racism. If you put Islam over that, there will be no racism.
There's definitely that, but I also think a big part of it is simply that, the world's been, colonized. Arab world,
For sure.
Muslim world's
For
been
sure.
colonized, and white supremacy is a thing. And even though the colonizer leaves, that mindset is left behind. And it's happened over centuries, right? And it gets carried down, like you said, generation to generation. And I think that, especially being African American and even just Black and Africans, they're next up on the totem pole. But we have a nature to kind of like forgive and forget and kind of just move on and kind of just, dismiss things and just kind of, let bygones be bygones. But I think that we owe a duty just to try to help, our Ummah on the racist side and those receiving the racism, just to speak out about it more and to kind of put people in their place, to kind of check them. I remember Mubarak asked a question in our previous show, like, who do we give the pass to say the N-word? And I was like, well, everybody just says it nowadays. Like, it doesn't even matter. But, just to do a service to like, okay, to keep people in their place, sometimes you have to check people. Even though you might not care about something, you have to check people so that they don't cross the line that you have established, And I think it's really sad.
I mean, it's the reason why, not to go on too much of a tangent, but the reason why, even though like the N-word or any, let's just say the N-word, for instance, the reason why I say there has to be a line, because usually people who are perceived to be or are actually in a lower position, or they're lower class, lower status, lower power, lower energy, lower aura, whatever you want to call it, they always get their rights or area or whatever transgressed on. You know what I mean? They just get, moved out of the way, stepped on, right? If you have someone who, has a certain property or area or whatever, if someone transgresses on their properties or rights, it's like if they're low, then nobody cares. If they're at a higher level, then you'll never be able to get away with it, right? Sometimes you have like the teenagers or whatever, they want to cut through your yard to get around the corner or whatever. You know what I mean? You might be like, all right, man, I really don't like that, but they won't do that at the White House. You ain't cutting through nowhere, right? You're going to walk your tail around, all the way around. You know what I mean? So that's just an extreme example. But within those two extremes, you have where your real estate, your property, your honor, because you're perceived as a lower status, they can tread all over you, right? It's like you can say, hey, to Black people, just get over it. Man, listen, man, slavery was 400 years ago. Tell a Palestinian to get over it. The ceasefire, man, it's over.
Right.
You'll have everybody just, up in arms, or tell them, hey, listen, like they tell Black people, it's y'all's own fault that y'all are the lowest on the totem pole. Maybe it is.